Chronicle Vault presents Ancient Civilizations, Emperors of Babylon. The famous city of Babylon was nearby. Euphrates riverbanks, in the region that now belongs to Iraq, like many caravans of different peoples, crossed the region. The city began to receive several influences, religious, social, and cultural, and soon grew in size and power. The city has several water channels that flowed through almost all the interior of the city. This water met several needs of the population. It is possible that at its height, Babylon was the greatest city in the world. And there were the famous Hanging Gardens, who were considered one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. With the flourishing of its economy, the Babylonians began to build statues, richly detailed temples and monuments. The structure of the Babylonian government was commanded by nobles from different families and by its religious leaders. The origin of the name Babylon is an adaptation of the Greek language. The original name comes from the Cathar language, Babylon, whose translation would be Door of the Gods. With the ascension of the Hammurabi king to the throne of Babylon, the city would achieve importance even greater. Hammurabi was the sixth king of the Morita dynasty, and about his reign, Babylon flourished, dominating territories that once belonged to the empire. Sumerian and Akkadian conquered the main cities of Mesopotamia, including the city of Assur and Nineveh. Things like this. The first empire, Babylonian, called the Babylonian Paleo-Empire. He also created the famous Hammurabi Code, which was a set of laws and rules of conduct, and it was also written how to apply the due punishments equivalent to the crimes committed. This code followed the principle of Italian law, where justice was achieved by the famous rule of the eye for the eye and tooth for tooth. In the military area, the Babylonians perfected Akkadian equipment, with well-worked and fitted breastplates and helmets. To the body of soldiers, Hammurabi's empire did not last long, collapsing shortly after his death, in 1750 before Christ. As expected, after the death of the sovereign, several revolts happened in the cities that were under Babylonian rule. During this period in Mesopotamia, Babylon was sacked by the Hittites and then ruled by the Elamites. The city of Assur, that was under the rule of the Babylonians, belonged to the Assyrians, who were one people of Semitic origin and formed one warrior society, known to be cruel and relentless in battle. The Assyrians probably formed the first regular army in history. Your professional soldiers, with standardized reinforcement and already using iron on your weapons and helmets, were terrible enemies. Their fighters were trained and paid for it, and served for a period established in contract. The Assyrians perfected the use of wars, and they were excellent archers. In addition to having one very well-disciplined infantry, they also became known for the development of encirclement weapons. His greatest force was in the cavalry, where many times two horsemen rode the same horse. Usually the combatant, who was literally behind, carried a bow and fell, or darts to hit enemies from a distance. The Assyrians were known to have no mercy on enemies captured. They tortured and humiliated the poor captives. With the fall of the Hammurabi Empire, the Assyrians conquered Babylon and took the lands and cities of the Elamites and Hittites, even taking great portions of land of the great people of Egypt. These feats consolidated the beginning of the Iron Age, or Neo-Assyrian Empire, which was the largest empire by extension up to that time. Exceeded even the empire of Sargon, or Big. The capital of the Assyrian Empire was the city of Nineveh, which has received great improvements in its walls to increase security against possible attacks. Enemies. The last great Assyrian king was the Sarbanapal, He organized the famous Library of Nineveh, which reached 22,000 clay platelets, with cuneiform writing, and it's thanks to them that today we know so much about the peoples of Mesopotamia. The Assyrian king did not have a peaceful reign, since his brother, who reigned in the city of Babylon, revolted against him, and he had allied himself with the nobles of Babylon and the nobles from the city. Salonitas, Assurbanipal declared war against his brother and besieged Babylon. Realizing that he had no chance of surviving, the traitor brother set fire to his own palace, dying in the fire. Then, Assurbanipal attacked the kingdom of the Elamites. He plundered the capital. The temples and even the tombs were looted. All Elamite princes were executed. And with that, the ancient kingdom of Elo has become extinct. Assurbanipal died in 1627 before Christ, about 58 years old. Your children tried to keep control of the empire, but this one soon went into decline due to the outbreak of revolts in many cities of state. In Egypt, the second pharaoh Necho recovered the Egyptian lands that were under Assyrian control, and in Mesopotamia, power was divided between Chaldeans and Medes, two Semitic tribes who were under Assyrian control. Nebuchadnezzar, who was a Chaldean nobleman, soon took the reins of Babylon's rule. He knew how to take advantage of the power vacuum, initiated attacks against cities of Nippur and Uruk, thus securing his position as king. Nabu Jumping was a strong king, expansionist in nature. He made alliances with the fears and peoples of Persia. The king married his son, Prince Nabu of Nosor, with the daughter of the king of Fears. In 1612 before Christ, Nebuchadnezzar and his allies besieged the city of Nineveh that still belonged to the Assyrians. The city was devastated, and with that was established the Second Babylonian Empire, called the Neo-Babylonian Empire, and its capital returned to city of Babylon. Nabopolassar died in the year 605 before Christ, 53 years old, and probably victim of some kind of disease, and was succeeded by his son Nebuchadnezzar. The owner saw. What does Nebo mean? Protect the crown. He was indeed a mighty king. And just like your dad had the objective of conquering new lands and expand your domains, to Babylon, that was already worn out due to the many years of invasions and looting, was fully over his reign, gaining a grandiose wall around it. It was during the reign of Nebuchadnezzar that was erected the famous Hanging Gardens of Babylon. He improved water channel systems and built great temples and secure, most dedicated to Marduk God. The Iggurates were large pyramid-shaped temples, originally created by the Sumerians and then succeeded by the Babylonians and Assyrians. The most famous of these Iggurates was Etemenank. This construction is attributed as being the original Tower of Babel. Its construction would have been started by Nabopolassar and would have achieved impressive 91 meters high. The grandiose ziggurat was brought down at Alexander's command, or big, when he conquered Babylon. The new Babylonian Empire reached its peak, thanks to the territories and trade agreements. The glorious city of Babylon exuded wealth and power. Its fame and grandeur were exalted by ancient authors, among them the Greeks Herodotus and Ctesias. But Nebuchadnezzar wouldn't just be content to sit on your throne and rule peacefully, and in a short time left in search of new lands to conquer. Near the Mediterranean Sea were the kingdoms of Israel and Judah. Nebuchadnezzar conquered the kingdom of Judah, apparently without suffering much resistance, and took Jerusalem, which at the time was the capital of the Jewish people. The king of Judah, Joachim, was taken prisoner to Babylon, together with many nobles and a large number of citizens of Jerusalem, especially those who had skills specific, like blacksmiths, masons, and painters. Among the captives was the prophet Daniel. Daniel, who was part of Judah's nobility, became Nebuchadnezzar's advisor. There he interpreted the dreams of the sovereign and ended up becoming respected in the royal court. Nebuchadnezzar left Joachim's uncle, Zedekias, in command of Jerusalem and went on conquering the lands of the kingdom of Israel, which in turn was more powerful than the kingdom of Judah. How the kingdom of Judah and Israel were close to Egypt. There was a division among the population, with some supporting that they should ally with the Egyptians, and others supporting standing by the Babylonians. It wasn't long before a revolt broke out in Jerusalem. Supported by the Egyptians, what enraged Nebuchadnezzar. He besieged Jerusalem before the Egyptians could arrive. The city suffered great retaliation, and its walls were destroyed. Its temples and palaces were looted. Zedekias was captured and blinded, being imprisoned for the rest of his life. And again, a large number of prisoners was taken into slavery and taken to Babylon. This period, it was recorded in the history of the Jew, like the captivity of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar of ours still fought against the Egyptians. In the 30th year of his reign, already over 60 years old, our buffalo suffered from a mental illness, described as lycanthropy, a disease where the person starts to have behaviors, wild and uncontrolled. Stories claim that he would have fled from Babylon and would have been found on one hill near the city, chewing grass as one boy. But in our hole he would recover from the cloud and would only die in 1562. About 72 years old, Nebuchadnezzar's successors didn't reign for long, having been Nabonid along with his eldest son, Belshazzar, the last Babylonian kings. Finally, Babylon would be conquered by Cyrus the Great. Ray from Persia, intensively, when the Persian king restored the city of Babylon, was applauded by the people. The conquerors were received as libertadores by the people who was oppressed by the Unbanid government. The great Babylonian Empire had come to an end. To your deeds left deep marks on the peoples of Mesopotamia, and its influence would span through the centuries.
Subscribe to the Vault of Chronicles channel. Stories you've never heard, every day here.